Hey everybody, welcome to CAF Warbird Tube, the show where we talk about World War II, aviation, history, and so much more. Warbird Tube is produced by the Commemorative Air Force, the world's largest flying museum. Our mission is to educate, inspire, and honor through flight and living history experiences. The CAF began the Warbird movement more than 65 years ago, and thanks to the support of individuals like you, we continue to grow strong. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and now our host, Steve Buss. Thanks for watching and keep 'em flying.
Warbird Tube. We are sort of in a different situation than we thought we were going to be. We should be looking at the runway and all the airplanes here at EAA AirVenture Oshkosh, but instead we're looking at this lovely 1991 vintage paneling inside the communications center. A brief rain shower was marching up on us just as we were about to go on the air, so we moved inside. We'll try to move outside in a little bit. So welcome everybody who's watching on Facebook, on YouTube, and if you are on either Facebook or YouTube, just hit that like or follow button, and also subscribe on YouTube so you know when we go live for Warbird Tube and all the other CAF videos that you'll be able to see. Now, as you're watching the presentation, if you have any questions, just type them in the chat box, and Leah will send those off to us, and we'll try to answer them within the broadcast if we can. And so we would like to welcome you officially to Warbird Tube episode number 79, live from the flight line at EAA AirVenture Oshkosh 2022. And joining me right now is CAF President Hank Coates. Hi, Hank.
Hey, Steve, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good.
It's Oshkosh, man. It's going to rain.
Oh,
It's not going to rain. Yeah, it's going to rain.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the CAF presence here during the show.
So this year we have about 19 airplanes that are in and out. Obviously Fifi and Diamond Little B-29 and B-24. We have a pair of B-25s. We got a P-40, P-51, a couple of those. I mean, just kind of boring stuff, really. We got an SBD, a couple of BTs, a couple of C-45s, P-39, the new Aero Cobra.
Yes.
With Bud Anderson's paint scheme, which was unveiled yesterday. That was a great success. Some PTs, a couple of T6s, and even some members brought their own personal aircraft. So we have at least, I would conservatively guess, 400 or 500 members here this weekend.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, overall, what's the state of the membership with CAF?
It's going really, really well. We've had a couple of initiatives. There's several different kinds of levels of members in the CAF, from the Writers Club that we've established, supporting members and colonels. We're up 21,000 members. But if you look at it from a big picture, and the volunteers and the supporters, there's hundreds of thousands worldwide. We have 80 units right now. Actually, I think 82 in the U.S. We have a unit in Belgium, Switzerland, the UK, and France, and we have kind of a unit that still sort of exists in New Zealand. And we've started a new unit initiative. We've had quite a few units that we've established this year and last, based upon a new paradigm for the CAF. We go into an area which we identify as having the demographics, and maybe not a unit close by, and we geocache it. We go in there and we look for members. And then we say, listen, here's the deal. You get 35 members, 5 aircraft sponsors, and you put the unit together, and, you do it within a certain time frame, and we'll get you an airplane. And that's been hugely successful. We had a 17-year-old young man in Connecticut that formed a unit from beginning to end. He's got like 40-something members. I mean, knocking it out of the park. And so it's been wildly successful.
Yes. We talked to the guys from the Rainier Squadron last week with their 1819, and they were really supportive of the unit initiative. Now, they formed a little bit before that, but they've been able to take advantage of some of the resources that you had for them. They've already got an airplane that's up and flying, and they're already doing rides. They're going to air shows.
Yep.
It's really been great.
It was we started this out. And this is just the thought process behind it. And this is more for CSF membership, but it's intriguing. This started 3 years ago when we stood, we don't have units in these areas. And we think that based upon the population, Pensacola, you would think that there'd be a unit there, and there never was. And so we started focusing on areas, and that's where the Floribama unit came from, was that new unit initiative. And then Gerald Oliver had a great idea. He said, we have all this marketing data from all the airplanes that are around going to air shows and doing rides and touring. We can take the marketing data and the demographics and combine them, and it makes for almost a sure thing. And with his help and support, it's been wildly successful. And we have people lining up to try to do this. I mean, we don't have enough money to buy all the airplanes for all the units.
It's a good problem to have.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
So, and now the headquarters fully established at Dallas Executive Airport.
Yes, sir.
Sort of on the south side of town. And the brand new education center is up and running, and that is gorgeous.
It really is. So the first year, it's fully paid for. There's no debt on that thing. We raised money from corporate sponsors, from foundations. The Ray Foundation was very, very, very important in achieving that objective. Local foundations, national level foundations, corporate entities in the local area, people in the local area, and members all put in there to build that thing, and we paid it in full. It is complete. That's now Fifi and Diamond Lil's home, and several other aircraft, the T-34, bucket of bolts, and the education L9 that we fly the kids in. So it is fully functional. It's up and running, and then we have an incredible hands-on lab, and then several other buildings. We have the nose art is on exhibition there. It looks awesome. You were a big part of helping us get that done, and we have some amount of foot traffic, but we have a lot of traffic. But we have a lot of things going on with kids. We have a J3 Cub that's being rebuilt by some kids through a benefactor in the local school that are working with us. We're working with industry. So there's a lot of fun things going on. There's a lot of fun to be around.
Yeah. And of course, the big Wings Over Dallas Air Show coming up over the Veterans Day weekend.
Yep. So we have never tried to do it quite that late in the year. But the city has asked us to try to do it because they want to partner with us. And we think it's a great weekend to do it.
Right.
It's going to be, it's the CAF homecoming. And so all the birds, man, they head out in March and April, and they start spreading around the world, and then they come home. And we have had units from California come and then go back home. But it really is the CAF show. It's an opportunity for everybody to come in, do some rides. We can be, because we own the airport basically for those 3 days by virtue of the city. And we can do rides, we can have tours. And if a unit wants to be creative and do something to help make money for their unit, then we help support them to make that money so that they can do things for the next year.
Right. And an important point that you've made there with the units, they're all volunteers.
That's correct.
And they are assigned an aircraft, and they have to raise the funds to maintain the airplane and fly it, and some of them are very creative in how they do it. Of course, I always look to Beth Jenkins in the B-25 for all of her T-shirt sales, which has helped to keep that airplane flying for many, many years. But yes, as you mentioned, there's ride programs and PXs and everything like that. And the headquarters is really at Wings Over Dallas, is really supportive of the individual units getting out, being able to regenerate their coffers.
Well, the membership and the volunteers is really, really where the rubber meets the road with the CF. They're the most important part, and so our job is to empower that and to go out and do the national press releases and coordinate the insurance. Our job is to break down the barriers so they can get out and do their thing. And every unit is different. Some units focus on golf tournaments. Syntex has probably one of the best golf tournaments out there. They do formal dances. We had an incredible dance at Dallas here a couple of months ago, and we have another one coming up next year. And if you look on our website, you can see that. I think the Tommy Dorsey band's going to play, and you'll have Fifi in one corner and Diamond Lil in the other with the lighting. It's an amazing event. But every unit has their own thing, and it may be a combination of things. It may be doing rides. It may be a formal event every year. It may be an air show. They may partner. Like, for example, SoCal partners with the EAA to put on a big air show in Camarillo, and it funds both of those entities down there, and it's wildly successful. So it's all volunteer, though.
Very, very important. And what are some of the other things that you'd like to highlight with CAF, either here or around the country, around the world?
So we have 180 airplanes now, and it's slowly going up. It may go down by one, but then it goes up by two, and that's really, really cool. you know, what's important for us is coming to Oshkosh, because with 80 something units, because you know, they'll sign a charter back home and I won't know about it. I say 82. I think that's what it is. It's so important because with 82 units, we the national level guys that are out there trying to empower the units and do the things so that they can do their things and give them new members and do all those efforts. We can't go to every unit all the time. We kind of play whack-a-mole. We try to go and do the fun things, but sometimes we go and have to help them.
Right.
And coming here, we have the ability. I have talked to members so far this week from Alaska, California, you know, Connecticut, and so and the UK. So by coming here, we're able to reach all the members, and so it's really, really important for us to come here and be a part, be a team member with EAA and support EAA and try to be value added for the show.
Exactly. Yeah, you mentioned the UK unit. They are also they're very involved in trying to get an airfield there restored.
Yes, they do all sorts of great things, and
they're a relatively new unit. They just stood up a couple of years ago.
Interestingly, we had a unit that was actually, I think somehow the royal family was involved. You may have more knowledge about that than I do.
Prince Philip at the time.
Yeah, and so there is a rich history of the CAF in the UK. For whatever reason, it kind of fell apart, and they reestablished it very, very quickly right after we went to D-Day 3 years ago. And by the way, D-Day 3 years ago was the 75th. So if you add 2 years to 3 years, then it's the 80th. So in 2024, the CAF and the D-Day Squadron are going back to Europe for the 80th.
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And I mean, pulling off that many DC-3s, C-47s going across a couple of years ago. So now you know how to do it, right? It'll be easy.
I'm not going to say it's going to be easy. I will say I will agree with you, easier.
Sure.
And I can't really divulge anything because we're in the baby steps. But word is that there may be more than DC's going over. So we'll see how that pans out.
So with the aircraft that are here, the members that are here, as you said, CAF is really helping to support the events and look forward to seeing some of our CAF aircraft in the air shows. Any final thoughts before we wrap up tonight?
Well, if anybody's here, you might want to go over to Kid Venture. We really love kids, and we do have the Red Tail trailer over there. So they're back again supporting the new P-63s here. Air Base Georgia's over there. They've got their two. They got P-51 and the P-63 over there. So they're well represented. It's just it's one of those things. I do a lot of posts and things mostly on LinkedIn, but I keep saying the word amazing, and because there isn't a better word to describe it. And we enjoy being here and being a part of the team. And if there's something we can do to make it better, if there's any CF members or other people that have questions, get them to me. And if I can't answer them, I will get you the guy that can, or the gal that can. So
excellent. Hank Coates, the president of CAF, thanks for dropping in and in our makeshift studio.
It's sunny now.
I know.
It's sunny.
The broadcast didn't start and the sun came out. It's Oshkosh. The weather's always going to change, so we got that going for us. So anyway, we are going to talk with Dick Napinski from EAA in just a few moments, so stand by.
training camps in 4 different cities. One city in Iowa, 3 cities here. Here is Wisconsin, where they have
Are back live from the air show announcer stand here at EAA AirVenture Oshkosh 2022. As Dick Dupinski from the EAA PR department is joining me. As you said, you like our new mobile studio.
This is nice. I mean, as long as you got somebody strong enough to move the table around, this is all right. You know.
Well, Dick, this has been a whirlwind week already. I understand aircraft movements and the number of aircraft that are here is way up.
It is. You know, yesterday they had more than 2,200 aircraft movements. O'Hare had about 2,000. So we win again. And, you know, that's it. World's busiest airport, according to the FAA. But it is tremendous. I was just down at the end of the South 40. Those of you who may not be familiar may have seen it on the map. It's called Fond du Lac, I think.
Pretty much.
But no, it is tremendous. We have about 5,000 airplanes on the field when it's completely full. And this morning they were down to filling in holes. And that was it. So it was just a tremendous year so far, and it's great to see, you know, the weather kind of turning our way here, and you know, can move the mobile studio outside and have all kinds of fun.
That is true, and you know, so from the weekend on, there's just been air traffic coming in left and right, and it's been fun to watch. Not everybody loves ADSB, but to be able to watch the live aircraft coming in and just seeing how everything funnels through. You know, a Fisk arrival and the Warbird arrival, and these things that you've heard about for all these years, and if you've never done it, you don't quite understand, but you get that visual picture just by looking at your computer, and then you see the number of aircraft on the way in.
When it's just a yellow line with wings on it all the way down. You know, and some pilots are ambivalent about ADSB until they're coming into Oshkosh and somebody cuts in line and the air traffic controllers say, "You get back."
Oh, they do.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
if they find them and they're on ADSB, they go,
back of the line.
Back of the line. There you go. No cutting in line. So, you know, and you can hear the collective yay out of everybody else coming in at that time. So, you know, it is something to just see, you know, the technology from people when they, you know, they had the paper NOTAM and kind of flew in here, and you hoped everybody else had the paper NOTAM at the same time. And now you put it right in the iPad and you've got everything you need. But still, it comes down to the basics. Good piloting and good control work and good ground crew all equals all these airplanes here.
So the aircraft, like you said, you're just filling in the holes here and there. So North 40 is full.
North 40 pretty close to full. You know, today and tomorrow are always transition days.
Right.
A lot of the people who came in, for instance, with the mass arrivals last weekend, there's a few of them starting to bug out a little bit. But then now you've got the people coming in for the long weekend. So they're filling in those holes. And today and tomorrow are going to be like that.
Right.
And then toward the end of the week, when it becomes, you know, more air show and all of those things that we know. But boy, what a tremendous first 3 days so far.
Yes. And of course, tomorrow morning, watching the ADSB will be everybody going out.
Yeah.
A lot of folks, as you say, are going out, but it's that midweek turnover,
Mhm.
and that's kind of been the flow of the event for the last
Forever.
several years.
And you and I were on the staff long enough ago that we started. It was Friday through Thursday, and then it went to Thursday through Wednesday, and then Tuesday. And so, and we always say, if you start this thing on Christmas, everybody's going to be here the 23rd,
right,
and everybody's going to leave the 30th before the last day. There's always going to be a last day, and that's
right,
one of the discussions that we've had through the years. Do you end it after Saturday? That's always something you can talk about, but
right,
there has to be a last day. If you finish up, there are a lot of complications if you finish up after a night air show on Saturday, because you've got people trying to get out in the dark, and that's not safe either. So it's, and I don't mean by aircraft, I mean exhibitors and other people at that point, campers. So, there are some times where a nice slow day to say your goodbyes and kind of wish everybody well and take your time in an airplane taking off. Yeah, there's something to be said for that.
Certainly is. We started out the week with a little bit of sad news, not completely unexpected, but Tom Poberezny, EAA's president for many, many years, the convention chairman from the 70s on and until just a couple of years ago, he passed away. And his timing, as always, was just about perfect. As he, we got the news on Monday, opening morning, but we've been relating Tom's stories, throughout the week so far, and really all the vision that he had to make this event what it is today. There are really some long visions and foresight and planning that's made this event a world-renowned event, not only in aviation, but in events in general.
Yeah, you think about this event, first of all, Concorde in 1985, the fourth American city where Concorde has landed. And, New York, Washington, D.C., Miami or Dallas, one of the two, and Oshkosh. Just think about that in 1985, how incredible that was and what the crowds were like at that time when you saw Concorde coming in. That kind of elevation, the Italian military team the following year, Voyager here a couple of years, really raised the event, and not just the airplanes, but the exhibitors, what it could be. You start telling the big companies, your customers are here with their airplanes and they're willing to buy things. That raises the level of the entire conversation too. And that's just the event. When I think about Tom, I think about Young Eagles celebrating 30 years this year, almost 2.3 million kids flown. You think about the building, the magnificent building, the EAA Aviation Center, which we just opened the new part for the Education Center. That was basically, he talked Paul into it in many respects, and then finally Sport Pilot, almost 20 years ago now, that he shepherded that through over an entire decade, saying we need better access, a certain level between ultralight and basic type certificated airplanes. What goes there and what is that stepping stone? So those four things, that's a heck of a legacy, without even talking about the fact that he was one of the nation's best air show pilots for 25 years with the Eagles. I mean, all of that. And that's one story I related a lot, that he'd be worried about garbage cans and traffic and porta potties, and then jump in the airplane in the afternoon, fly 15 minutes with the Eagles, and then get back out and worry about traffic and porta potties and dumpsters.
That was one of my memories that I shared with Jack earlier this week, Jack Belton, the CEO. And I said, I remember one of the early years I was on staff. This is before all the vehicle traffic coming in it was a mess.
Right.
And at the time, we only had one Bell 47 helicopter that didn't even do rides like they do now. Right. It was more for media and VIPs. But traffic was backed up from Oshkosh to Fond du Lac. I mean, it was just the Highway 41 was a parking lot. And I remember Tom running up to Pioneer Airport, jumping in the Bell 47 with his pilot. They went out and coordinated with the State Patrol and the Winnebago County Sheriff's Office, and he got all the traffic moving again. Then came back down, and just like you said, jumped in Red 3, hauled himself down to the flight line, got inside his airplane, his Eagle, strapped his helmet on, put on the belts, and away they went.
Yeah.
And I had seen him do that a number of times, but once he got in that airplane, everything else went away. And he would go do that routine with Charlie and Gino.
Yeah.
And then come back out and, like, say, those garbage cans need to be emptied.
and it was one of those things, an engineer by education.
Right.
And you and I both knew him very well for more than 2 decades. And that's the way he looked at things, very analytical. And we said, first of all, he took on such a legacy from his father, who was such a different personality. And then to make that adjustment and raise EAA to a new level that was unexpected and uncharted territory for the organization, and do it very effectively, and have that and leave that as his legacy. You know, those are the kind of things that you have to remember. And sometimes, maybe because Paul was such an outsized personality, maybe Tom didn't get his due quite enough. But, you know, you try to remember that those two people, as the family business, grew it and created something that now we sit here and have tens of thousands of people waiting for a night air show here in Oshkosh tonight.
I know, it is amazing. We talked about the night air show that's coming up in probably about a half hour. What are some of the other things, the big things that are happening this week?
Well, this week, of course, 75th anniversary of the Air Force. We've seen some of it today with some of the heritage flights. C-17 has come in here, all kinds of fun with that. You're going to see more airplanes come through. A lot of the generals are coming in to be a part of it. It is just a big celebration. And the Air Force is only doing a couple of civilian shows with their full support, and AirVenture is one of them this year. So we have that. The airlines are here recruiting like mad. I mean, they need pilots. All of you who've been on canceled flights can understand, okay, they need pilots. And they're here recruiting. And that's why they're bringing the big iron out. They're bringing that out. And that 15 years of women venture. We mentioned 30 years of Young Eagles, those type of things. 50 years of Vans RVs. You know, what an incredible accomplishment. 11,000 plus of those airplanes flying around the world. Yeah, those type of things are all part of the event this year. And people say, do you have a theme? Well, we have activities. You know, it's tough to have a theme overarching and things like that. But people come here for different reasons. So you create those activities, those draws, so they can come here and enjoy themselves with things that they love. I don't care if it's ultralights or Warbirds or whatever it happens to be. So all of those things are part of what is Oshkosh.
Some of the other things that have happened through the years is a much greater emphasis on pilot proficiency and pilot training. And that's the new addition to the museum, or the aviation center. I guess it's not technically in the museum, but it's attached to it. Yeah. But we're seeing that as really an extension of EAA saying, hey, we want to be in the forefront of making sure general aviation stays safe.
It is. And you took a look at those Redbird simulators inside the Pilot Proficiency Center during AirVenture. Great attendance all week. And then we put them in a box and put them away and then drag them out the next year. Why? Why can't we use those? And so creating a vision like this, and a lot of our main donors stepped up and did that. You take a look, youth education, pilot proficiency, and then you put in a conference center to help fund the maintenance throughout the rest of the year. And you create a unique atmosphere here. It's when people have business meetings, everything from business meetings to conventions to weddings here, and we've had that through the years, you create a unique space. It's not a conference room. It's not a ballroom. You're in an atmosphere, and it's something memorable at that point. And that's part of what we created. And if you've been over to that place, the new education center, you see it's an entirely different look than the rest of the museum. It's much more modern. It kind of makes, the museum's almost 40 yeit's old now. And
I was going to say,
yeah. And so, but this is really stunning where it is, and it fits so well. And it's a grand entryway, and tomorrow night for the gathering, that will be the entryway to the gathering instead of through the museum. They'll be coming through the new education center.
Awesome. And with the 30th anniversary of Young Eagles, also there's an education component for young people in that new edition as well.
There is. Upstairs is really cool. They've got STEM labs, hands-on STEM labs, classrooms that are modular type. They can break down the walls and so forth. Yeah, a wind tunnel. 3D printers. So you print up your airplane, take it over the wind tunnel. Does it fly? And you can watch it, see how that design, how do you tweak the design and so forth. And with online learning, we can go anywhere in the world with this now. And those are the kind of things. Emphasis on local. We're going to do a lot of local stuff.
Very good. What are some of the things that you're looking forward to this weekend?
This week, first of all, just meeting people. And you know that. You've been here enough times. That just is seeing everybody once again, and those heartfelt 30-second conversations that you have through the entire week, and do those. But just seeing some of the restorations this year coming in here. Everything from the Jenny from Northern Illinois coming up here, that reproduction, to the restored Messerschmitt ME 109. You're going, okay, people took their COVID break and they got to work. And, and so you see some of those things this year. And I think that helps explain the number of airplanes that we have here. Now, we're standing here tonight as you started your podcast and took a look at that beautiful, shiny aluminum aircraft past Grand Champion coming in and parking here.
Right.
And of course, you can tell the people who haven't been here, sitting in their chairs or left their chairs here, which promptly ended up about 40 yards away. And so,
Exactly.
yeah, beware of prop wash. So, all of that is something that create these memories here. And that's what this event is about. And, I'd like to say we have a new press center too, It's,
that is true.
So,
I was amazed when I drove in for the first time, seeing. For those who don't know, the original press center was a house that was located almost on the airport, in the shadow of the old tower. And for many years, it reigned as press headquarters. It had its own quirks and its own personality, and it lived a good long life.
full, long, memorable life. Tens of thousands of media about the world that came through
I've
there.
been through those doors,
Yeah.
but it got to the end of its useful period, and last fall,
It came
one
down.
last hurrah.
Yeah. The traditional septic backup, I think, was getting a little weary on everybody because it was happening daily. And then you have things, and it's mold, age, and all of that. So it was time. And when you have an event like this, you need a media workspace. So, I've dubbed it facetiously the Tajma tent, but it's fun. The media like it a lot. Don't have to run outside in a thunderstorm from the garage to the news conference tent anymore. It's all connected, and so it's part of advancing things forward. And this event will always evolve. It has to evolve because the people coming to it evolve and make other demands. And so it's not the same as it was 40 years ago, nor should it be. And so that's a big part of it.
Yes, it looks, just driving by looking at it, I haven't been in it yet, but it looks like something you'd see at a PGA tour or some sort of large outdoor event that really caters to the media. And that's really what you need.
And that's where it came from. Last September, I had a chance to visit the Ryder Cup Media Center. I had a friend with the PGA Tour, walked me through it. We took a whole bunch of photos, took the photos to Jack Pelt, and he said, "You're not getting that." And I went, "Okay." And I said, "They're just ideas, and so, but we ended up with something very nice because Arena and GES also did those tents. They knew exactly what I was talking about. So it's about 1/3 of the size of the Ryder Cup Media Center, but it is very functional. It does what we want. Like any first year house, you start going things like, we got to change the baseboards now,
right?
And things like that. But those type of things. But it's a great place for the media, and we're going to do that. And you see that throughout the entire ground. Some of the things that are evolving and becoming, like out the Four Corners this year, how that's developed. The Learn to Fly Center, which is expanded this year. Those type of things. So it's always going to evolve. I think one of the big ones is Boeing moving across the street to where Ford used to be. And so Ford pulled back from a lot of their non-automotive sponsorships throughout the nation, Consumer Electronics Show, us, others, and because you got to sell cars, you got to have chips, and so they ended up doing that. But Boeing took that spot. They've got a grand exhibit right over there.
Yeah, that's one of the big questions that has gone around the grounds. What happened to Ford?
Mm-hmm.
And thank you for addressing that.
Well,
I didn't even have to ask.
Figured it'd be asked. And so,
all right, any final thoughts for us, Dick, before we wrap up?
I tell you, we're 3 days in. It is great to see everybody. It's great to see our international visitors back for the first time in 3 years in mass. The South Africans are here. You can hear them out in Camp Scholler. And
the Sling aircraft came in today as well.
They did. Yeah, got delayed by weather a little bit, but they got here. And so they are here all the way from South Africa and over the ocean too. Not the traditional way through Europe and Iceland and Greenland, but it's a long way. So the world has come back to Oshkosh, and that's what makes it so cool.
Excellent. Dick Dupinski with EAA joining us here on Warbird Tube. Dick, I know you're a busy guy, so I'll let you get to whatever it is you need to get.
Whatever it is I do, but this is relaxing. I can stay up here for weeks. Yeah.
You're more than welcome to.
Okay.
We have chairs.
I'll just lay down on the floor. That's fine. Thanks.
Thanks again, Dick, and we'll be back in just a moment with more CAF Warbird 2.
These people get into the training camps in 4 different cities. One city
Back live from the air show announcer stand at EAA AirVenture Oshkosh 2022. We're having a grand time, and Dick Napinski was just here, and he mentioned international visitors being back, and one of our international visitors, a former victim of Warbird Tube, is Stephen Bridgewater. You were on our program
Monday.
Yes, but and on one of our webinars, I forget, we talked about air shows.
We talked about air shows. We talked about my travels around the world.
Yes.
Yep.
And you haven't stopped traveling either.
No.
Oh.
No. It's been a busy couple of weeks.
Tell us a little. Well, first of all, tell us your official title and what you do for a living.
I have a hobby I get paid for, really, don't I? I'm the deputy editor for Aerospace magazine, which is the magazine for the Royal Aeronautical Society based in London. We've got 22,500 professional aviator members. So they are pilots, designers, aeronautical designers, software engineers, anybody that works within the aviation profession. And there are a small group of us that produce a monthly magazine. So I joined the team about 3 months ago, having spent 22 years writing about general aviation aircraft and warbirds. And I'm now immersing myself in the world of military aviation and commercial aviation and anything that's cutting edge and really sort of out there. So for example, we've had an article recently on solar farms in space, actually having solar panels on satellites and beaming the power down to Earth. So that's the sort of stuff that we're reporting on at the moment.
That's excellent. Now, in our conversations between the webinar and you getting here, you were almost here last year. It was so very, very close.
I was so very close. As a journalist, although it wasn't possible to travel into the US, there was an exemption in place for journalists to come in.
Right.
So I'd got my tickets booked, I got the hotel booked, and then the rules changed and I needed what was called a National Interest Exemption Certificate. So AOPA were kind enough to write that exemption, so that I really needed to be at AirVenture last year, sent all the paperwork off to the US Embassy, and they gave me permission to come to AirVenture.
Excellent.
On the Tuesday after AirVenture had started. So I didn't make it last year, but so my last trip here was 2019.
Yes.
This is my 10th visit. I first came in 2003, which was the centenary flight. So what a year to have your first indoctrination into the world of Oshkosh and AirVenture, something I'd wanted to do since I was a kid. So
one of the things that you shared with me was a documentary that really inspired you, and sort of a Young Eagle-esque sort of thing that just got the spark going.
Yeah, very much. The BBC ran a documentary series in the early 80s called Reaching for the Skies. And there was an episode on big aeroplanes, and there was an episode on furthest travel, so Lindbergh and Alcock and Brown and people like that. And they had an episode called The Joy of Flight. And it was filmed here at Oshkosh. And I must have been about 7 or 8 years old. And I can still remember sitting on the carpet in front of my the TV in my parents' house and thinking, one day I'm going to go to this mythical place called Oshkosh. And I did. Yeah, and so this is my 10th pilgrimage, as I say, to AirVenture, and it never grows old. It's just, you can't comprehend unless you've been just how special this place is.
Yeah.
It's a bit, I liken it to going to a music festival that has airplanes. You know, it's like the Woodstock of aeronautics.
There you go.
And I think that sums it up, because it's and I think this year, because a lot of people haven't been for the last 2 years because of pandemics and different reasons, everybody seems so happy to be here. It's just got I was just saying to Dick Napinski, there's a vibe out there that people are just happy to be back in Wisconsin, and and the sun's out now. So
yeah, it rained 3 drops, and that was it. Just enough for us to move in and move out. But aside from being here, you have been a traveler the last few weeks, haven't you now?
I have. I've not been home for a few weeks now. So I started off with the Royal International Air Tattoo at the American Air Force Base at Royal Air Force Fairford in Gloucestershire in England, which is the world's biggest military air show. So about 250 military aircraft there. So everything from, oh gosh, what did we have? There was a U-2 on static. Of course, we had a U-2 flying today. I mean, I can't believe 2 weeks ago I was excited about seeing a U-2 in the static park, and here we are seeing one in the flying. And the Red Arrows, we have the South Korean display team with their aircraft, which were just phenomenal, really phenomenal display team.
What do they fly?
They fly, it's a Korean aircraft industry T-50, so it's called the Golden Hawk, and it's it kind of looks like a 2-seat F-16, but not quite. But a really, really impressive machine. So they came across on a European tour. So they performed their full display at Fairford. They performed some flypasts at the Farnborough Air Show, which is where I went to after Riyadh, the Royal International Air Institute, and they've also been down into Europe as well. So a bit of a sales tour for that aeroplane across Europe. So I went from Royal International Air Institute, went to the Shuttleworth collection on the Saturday. So that was the Friday. The Saturday I was at the Shuttleworth collection. So vintage aeroplanes, everything from a replica 1910 Avro triplane and a Bristol box kite through to Hurricanes and Spitfires and things like that. That was the Saturday evening. Then went straight down to Farnborough to be on site at the Farnborough Air Show on the Sunday morning, into London on the Sunday night, and then 5 consecutive days at Farnborough, so the big Farnborough trade show. Left there Friday night, flew to Chicago Saturday morning to come to Oshkosh. So I think I'm going to be home on about the 3rd of August. I think I've kind of lost track.
Are your dogs going to recognize you when you get back?
No, I think that.
And what are you taking your wife as a gift?
Well, I've bought presents for the dogs so far. I guess I should take something for my wife as well. Yeah, you're right.
Probably.
Thanks for the tip, Steve.
I know where the gift are. Contrast Farnborough, because we've all heard about it, and very few of us on this side of the ocean have been there, but contrast that show with this one.
Oh, chalk and cheese, apples and pears. Farnborough is a trade show. There is no flying display as such that you get here. There's a small flying display on the Friday, which is called the Pioneers of Tomorrow, which is effectively the Young Eagles type, promoting the future, so lots of STEM activities. But for the other 4 days, there's a trade display, so you'll see the latest Airbus A350, and Boeing took across the 737-10 and the 777X. So you see big airplanes like that really being thrown around. You know, it's not a fly past. They've got sort of 60 degrees of wing over, and it's really quite impressive. They're all ex-military guys that are flying these test pilots out. It's really impressive. But no GA. You know, I think the smallest aeroplane I saw there was a Cessna Caravan. I think there were a couple of the little electric pipistrelles on static display. But it's more of a military and commercial aviation selling fest. So I spent a bit of time with the Turkish aircraft industries, which was really interesting. They had their Hercus there, which was their turboprop trainer. So a little bit like the Texan 2, you know, the Textron Texan 2. They got some helicopters and some drone, a lot of drones, UAVs. And then they had the mock-up of their TFX, which is their 5th generation stealth fighter, which they're rolling out next March. And it's it looks kind of a cross between an F-35 and an F-22. Really impressive bit of kit. And I managed to get in the cockpit of that mock-up. I was the first non-Turkish journalist that got the tour of the cockpit, and that was really fascinating. It's
congratulations.
Looking forward to seeing that take to the air. I think they're looking at a 2024 maiden flight with that, so that'll be one to watch. Don't rule out the T. We think of it, the aerospace industries as being the US, right, Europe. So you've got Dassault in France, you've got British BAE Systems in the UK. And there's a lot of other emerging nations now which have got some tech we really need to pay attention to.
Good. And you just recently picked up an award.
I did.
And sort of a high-tech article that you had written.
I did. I've worked for various magazines over the years, and I was recently working for a magazine called Aircraft Cabin Management, which was all about anything in the cabin. So seats, in-flight entertainment, catering, on-board Wi-Fi, things like that. And I wrote an article on aircraft filters, would you believe? It really was that interesting. And it was shortlisted for an award at the Aerospace Media Awards for the category was passenger and crew well-being, and I was lucky enough to win. So huge honor. And the award ceremony was at the Royal Aeronautical Society, which also happens to be my office. I look, you know, Facebook gives you these memories, doesn't it? This time last year, this time 4 years ago, you were doing X, Y, and Z. And 3 years ago to that day, I checked in at the Royal Aeronautical Society at another of these dinners. And I said in my acceptance speech, I can't believe 3 years down the line, I call this incredible place my office. You know, it used to be the Duke of Wellington's house. We've got marble obelisks and big mahogany doors. And it's a privilege to walk through those doors. You know, it's a society that was formed in the 1860s. And it's just I still pinch myself when I go into work every day.
Well, congratulations on the award.
Thank you.
For being the deputy editor of the magazine, and sounds like a pretty nice office space.
We're in the servants' quarters upstairs, obviously. That was great.
Oh, good. Stephen Bridgewater is with us. Any final thoughts before we kind of wrap things up tonight?
I'm just really pleased to be back at Oshkosh. You know, and there is no other event like this. You know, you look out and you've got it. Well, so what can we say? F-18s, F-35s, Super Chipmunk, we've got a Beech 18, we've got a field full of classic vintage aircraft. Turn around and you've got airliners and military aircraft. Nowhere else does this. This is AirVenture. This is Oshkosh. This is why it's my 10th visit, and it won't be my last.
Very good. That is going to wrap it up for our Warbird Tube program for tonight. And we have to end a little bit early so we can all get in position for the night air show, which is coming up in just a few minutes. Thank you for joining us. If you would, please, if you're watching on Facebook, make sure you like us on Facebook and subscribe on YouTube. And also make sure you click that bell button so that when we go live, you get the notifications of what's happening. So again, thank you, Stephen, to Hank Coates, president of CAF, and Dick Lipinski from EAA's PR department for joining us tonight, and for you for putting up with some camera movement and little glitches here and there. But so for our audience, thank you from me for sticking with us. So with that, we will wrap up. If you haven't been here, you got to get here, and if you are here, well, you know what we're talking about. So for the CAF Warbird Tube, I'm Steve Buss. Have a great night. We'll talk to you next week.